Hello, this is the 101 Dalmatian Street Pupcast, and I am Zibboyeye, or just Zib is fine.
And I am Aleu Borks, or Aleu if you prefer. I make videos sometimes.
Yeah, same. More often than you do.
Yep.
Okay. So, today we are talking about, the best episodes. And, this isn't going to be in any particular order of escalation of quality. I kind of just chose it to be in order of, airing. So, yeah. Or well, actually, we might not even go with that order. Is there anyone you want to start with?
Um, let's start with let's start by going down with like what's at the top and then go to the bottom, which at the top is Doggy Da Vinci.
Oh, really? Uh, okay. Well, it was the one I kind of wanted to do that last, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
uh, you want to just go for it?
Well, I mean, if you want, if you're not comfortable with starting off with that, we can start with something else.
Okay. Did you take notes?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's fine. I can start anywhere. Uh, let's just start with order of airing, like I said.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the first one in terms of our list of order of airings is Girls' Day Out, Season 1, Episode 13, or 17A. I don't really care what you call it. And I'll list both
It,
those.
it's definitely one of the best out of the series, and also a great Mother's Day episode.
Yeah, I'd say so too. And this was one of the ones that I was like sort of, it's one of the earlier ones, and it was one that I was like, well, this might be where I was sort of sold on the show, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it. I didn't watch these in order at first, so this was one of the last I watched before
Oh,
the hiatus returned. But it definitely
really?
surprised me with how, yeah,
But
but it surprised me with how
the
really good the
continuity,
dynamic. Oh, what?
the strong continuity.
I know, but that doesn't matter too much, I feel.
Okay.
But I really like the dynamic between Dolly and Delilah, who.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I'd say that that's probably like a really relatable conflict. Probably the most relatable in the series.
Yeah.
Cause I'd say like it's just always relatable to make a parent mad or whatever, and it sort of has a good sort of a reconciliation sort of deal. This is me without a script.
No, you're doing fine. But I can agree with that, and I also think the humor worked in its favor, and there's a lot more. Well,
This is you without a script.
I'm not good with like speaking my mind right off the bat, as you can tell.
Well, at least I took notes. No, I'm just playing though, but really, what else do I have on my notes? Uh, Delilah's hips. No. Delilah's.
Oh,
Uh,
don't worry. Like,
but
I'm fine with those.
same. But really, it's one of the things that I think Okay, because I grew up with well, I think we all grew up on like Fairly Odd Parents and like other shows where the parents were sort of just little more than basic archetypes that
Yeah.
kind of just facilitated a sort of area of conflict for the character. I guess you could say sort of facilitated, what would the confines of the character, I guess. Like they're really just the parents in most cartoons, at least the ones that I remember, usually don't play much more of a role than either just scolding the main character at the end, or like pretty much that they were kind of used as just a means of sort of punishment sometimes. And but they were, they're sort of really archetypical, that and they don't really play a role in most episodes. And I think that this is one of the better things about Delilah and the parents as a character, and the parents as characters in this show.
And that's because they feel more like natural characters and not just how most cartoons sort of portray them.
Yeah. I mean, they do sort of, I mean, you do have sort of like, I guess, the goofy dad stereotype. I mean, or archetype, I mean. And really, yeah, they do sort of use those archetypes, but they aren't just they aren't just a means of facilitating an environment for the character or punishment for them. Like in this episode, she actually does play a role in actually moving the plot along in it of herself. Delilah, I
Yeah.
mean. And that's what I think, that's one of the reasons why it's, why I think they're actually like good characters, because they actually are. um Anything
Yeah, I
else?
can. Uh, no, I think you mostly said what I was, well, sort of thinking about. No, so I feel like Dolly being angry at Delilah was a bit more reasonable here, because she was kind of harsh, but
You say more reasonable, reasonable compared to another episode, or?
yeah, I just hmm, kind of. I don't know what episode, but
Yeah, it really did feel reasonable, but natural in a way. It didn't feel like
it
it
didn't feel forced or anything like that.
yeah, I'd say it really felt organic and natural how it started. I will say by the end it sort of gets a little bit like with the whatever thing that makes them orange. It does get a little bit like okay, we want to move the plot in this direction, and it does work. It does make sense, but it's sort of I think it could have used a little bit of a smoother escalation. It sort of, I think it did work, but I think that it was a little bit like they kind of wanted the characters in this situation, and it didn't felt as natural as the conflicts. The escalation didn't feel as natural as the conflict's initiation, is what I mean. But I'd say like
Yeah,
I don't necessarily consider it a bad thing, because it's still an entertaining place to take the plot, you know.
yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too on that.
And it still does give a, because in the beginning when Delilah saves the cat, it sort of gives a, it facilitates Dolly's appreciation for Delilah, or admiration, I mean. And then in the van when they're escaping, and Dolly uses whatever with
The
the
water
water.
bottle.
Yeah, challenge pissing. No, I'm kidding. Uh, uh, like it does sort of, it facilitates the admiration Delilah for Dolly. I thought that was a, even if the second part of the episode does feel a little bit not as natural, I do think that it actually did it did its job well.
I got nothing else to really say there, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Uh I covered I put the nose job next, but do you want to cover the two-parter after Flea Mageddon?
No, I'm fine with covering the two-parter, because I think that's like a good important one, and one of the first of the of the
Yeah,
of the story
two-parter.
arc going on. Well, that will be going on with certain episodes. This isn't really a serialized
What do you
series.
mean? What do you mean? The real start is the woof factor, where the camera pans on him for like 2 seconds. It plays such an intricate narrative role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
But also, I don't think either of us here really care for the wolf factor.
are we gonna talk about that now? Because I actually like that episode.
Oh,
Did you not?
I mean, if you want, that's fine. I just have.
Well, I didn't practice. I didn't watch that, but I was really considering it like a fourth or fifth place,
That would have
or maybe.
been interesting a bit.
Oh, you mean because we disagree?
Something like that.
Oh, well,
I don't hate it as much as like. Well, I don't. Well, we shouldn't skip ahead with worse. But I mean.
Yeah, we have a plan, and we don't want to spoil the canon. It's as important as the narrative of this show. Okay, but yeah, okay. So I guess we won't cover the wolf factor, but maybe since I mentioned it, I don't know.
All I'll say about it is that it's like funny for certain parts, but I think the joke runs its course a little.
Yeah,
Well, not too bad because it's still spaced out fine with 11 minutes. But I mean, just the shtick gets a little old. But that's all I really have to say.
oh, okay. I my really only problem with it was the sort of convenient conclusion of rather than proving themselves that they could do it, it's like, no, we don't want to have these characters end up like proving themselves being stronger, and then the triplets just come in and clean up the conflict. Like, oh, okay. Well, why are we even mentioning this? This is the best episodes. Whatever.
I don't know.
Okay. There's a
Probably
little,
because it was brought.
yeah, there's a little bonus. So I guess we will cover the nose job, the nut job. Uh
That's what I keep thinking. It's the nut job sometimes.
yeah, I was thinking of the nut job. I don't even know the nut job. It was a complete failure. Like, I can't even make a joke about it because I don't even know about it.
It got a sequel though, so
Oh yeah. But
I don't think it was a complete failure.
oh yeah, not as bad as Shenmue 3. No, I like Shenmue 3. This is off topic. But okay, so the nose job, let's start with part 2. No.
Oh,
So, part one, honestly, the title cards appear so quickly that I didn't even know this was a two-parter. And I mean, I can't even blame the fact that I'm a pirate and was watching it in like with the whatever German airing, so I couldn't even read the nose job.
I
But
think that's how most Americans and other people have watched the show because it's not legally here yet in the West.
yeah,
It coming Disney Plus after it airs in the UK. That there,
honestly, I kind of think speculation here, but I kind of think March might be its more accurate release date. At least, let me mute this channel because I think my camera, I think the thing is picking it up.
know.
Okay.
But now that you bring it up, yeah, I think March would actually be a good way for it to bring it to the West. Or like bring it here in the States, and that, because like we don't have many episodes left, so after season one wraps,
Oh well, I
that would
was
probably
saying
be
that
somewhere.
because the there's this book on Amazon, the Cinna Story sort of comic book adaptation of the episodes releasing in March, and I'd be kind of
Oh,
surprised if it aired before the show.
you mean release?
Yeah, if it released before the show aired.
Mm.
But
Yeah, I think I get that.
yeah.
But I guess with my speculation, it's more so legal mumbo jumbo, and that's why it's not on Disney Plus yet.
Oh, I guess they need
But I can.
censorship. No.
But
No. uh but anyways, yeah, I had no idea this was a two-parter because for one, the title cards show up for like a couple of seconds, and two, it's in like German or Dutch or whatever, so I don't even bother looking at it outside of the art. And so I first off, I kind of feel like the first thing to bring up is that I is kind of a negative. I don't know. How do you, what negative would you bring up first?
uh,
I'm hoping this is mine because otherwise it'd be an awkward lead in.
the only negative
With
I
part
guess I could
one.
think. Uh, I guess the only negative with part one I could think of is probably how weirdly
Yes.
rushed. Wait, no, not rushed. I'm trying.
Well, that's actually kind of the opposite of what I was going to say.
Oh,
Well, no. I mean, probably the same, but the opening is really slow. Did you feel the same?
yeah, that. I think that's fair. I'm sure that's for like the conflict and also what would be more important later on once we get to part two.
Yeah, because what I was sort of thinking is I was like I thought because I didn't know it was a two-part episode, so I was watching it and I looked at the timer and I'm like, wow, okay, so the conflict is that maybe we should bring up the conflict and explain the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So
Um,
the main conflict is essentially that um the park is vandalized with paw prints, and that's sort of how the conflict starts. But really, it's sort of the opening is pretty much leading up to Dylan having to like humble himself and rely on Diesel's superior smelling
yeah.
abilities. So that's pretty much what the opening sets up. But it's sort of also setting up the suspects. So it felt like it was really drawn out and kind of slow, but that's partially because I had no idea it was a two-parter. I looked at the timer, I'm like, wow, halfway through the episode and we're just getting the conflict. But
I'm sure there was probably something with the German title that did hint it was like a two-parter.
Well, it
But
did
that,
because it's called Part 1, but I didn't read the German title because I
yeah,
can't read it. How dare
yeah,
you?
that's fair.
How dare you imply I'm responsible for my misunderstanding? Really? But yeah, but once it does become a two-parter, I sort of do feel like it is a fair pacing in terms of a 22-minute episode. A 5-minute first act or so is not that bad, but it does sort of feel a bit awkward. Not really, but like it is a bit slow in that it really has to set up all these different characters and suspects, and it does sort of lead to a bit of a pacing inconsistency because afterwards it gets really fast going from like Fergus to like Dylan interviewing like Spencer and like all the others. But it is like I'd say that it does speed up, but in terms of like what each scene and what each like part of the episode is going for, it doesn't feel unnaturally paced. It just feels like there's a bit of a pacing inconsistency. But I kind of do understand why that they kind of did have to sort of front load the episode with a bunch of setups just to get to sort of the fun interrogation sort of bits.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say on your intricate notes?
Uh, honestly, I'm not really sure.
Anything about part one? I guess I'll explain a little bit about part one. So after that, Diesel's banned from the park, and or wait, is that? Yeah, that.
No, it was like
No, wait, does that happen at
the
the end?
pup
Wait, does that happen at the end?
where Diesel gets put in dog jail.
Well, that's part two.
Well, that well, that was like kind of happened after the end of part one, I think.
Yeah, I think that's so. I think this sort of made me appreciate the sort of hard work that goes into two parters in a way because you don't even though the episode does appear like air together, you do gotta have a sort of you can't just stop you can't it's like you can't just a movie follows a 3-act structure, but you can't just stop it in the middle and then make the next the sequel. In a way,
Yeah,
the two-parter, I sort of think I grew to appreciate how writers have to structure a two-parter because it has to end on a conclusive enough note that you feel, or like a really a turning point that really piques your interest and is a good sort of hook into part two. Like they really do work together, and even though, but they are sort of a bit separate, and I think that's sort of a good sort of distinction because you are right. Diesel does go to jail in part two, and you do have that distinction between the episodes, but there is sort of
yeah,
a smooth link in that it ends with the turning point that Diesel's going to jail. Really, I think the fact that I can confuse certain parts of happening in part one and part two only serves to explain how fluid the conflict is between these two episodes and how it does feel like one continuous story, which is probably more than I can say than another two-parter.
yeah.
Uh,
Something tells me we'll have to bring that up at some point, but even if it's not
yeah,
written.
written. You aren't supposed to know we're reading a script. No, I'm kidding.
What?
They aren't supposed to know this. No. Uh, but I haven't even looked at my notes that much. I'm going off memory. What hangs? What did I even
Honestly,
say?
same.
Yeah. Well, you don't have notes. Uh,
Nope.
yeah. Cool. What did I write? Cool, darker. Oh yeah, it really.
Darker.
Yeah, it is. I like the color change. They sort of. I guess you could call it the white balance, but I'm using sort of camera film terminology. It has a cooler white balance, is what I mean.
Yeah. I don't think it's like completely darkened, but it was sort of making me think of like something like a noir type of
Yeah,
or black
exactly.
and white type of thing.
Yeah, like the colors are a bit muted, but it's given a sort of a cooler toned, cooler temperature overlay that I think it really did give it a sort of cool vibe.
Yeah.
Really worked well for the mystery, especially since at the beginning I kind of like how what was I talking about? It starts off like a regular episode with regular colors, but
Yeah.
it does sort of go into, I think it's a good sort of subversion of expectations with what you have with the previous episodes, which are more sort of a lighthearted, sort of your more average sort of slice of life episodes, and then it does sort of take this noir twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh. Okay. So I guess we'll move on to part two, where Diesel goes to jail. Diesel goes to jail.
And then there's like something I remember where someone questioned whether or not Pro was right on doing that. But I'm not gonna get into that. I shouldn't have mentioned that. Whoop.
Oh, oops. Why? I don't really get why people. I mean, I don't really get why people would be mad. Well, it's
I, I
in.
think it's because it's just like one person probably bringing it up only, but I'm sure others feel the same. Maybe others feel the same way. I think it's less of a vocal minority than one other episode, but it's only because someone thinks that Pearl was in the right because Diesel broke the park ban. Therefore, he should be arrested for doing that.
Yeah, I'd say so. I I'd
Oh,
say I'd say I mean I can sort of understand it, but I mean really uh I'm
well, I mean, he was sleepwalking, and also he wasn't really the culprit. But
well yeah, but I mean she didn't know that.
yeah, that's also fair.
And also, I mean, I consider writing a sort of a balance between what you want to do of what makes sense logically in terms of the narrative, in terms of the world of the story, and just what's actually better to watch. That you have to make it, if you're going to have some logic, you've got to at least make it enjoyable to watch, or like
Yeah,
yeah, and that's really something that I wish I could have said in my Saw 3 review uh, at a certain point. But yeah, I can kind of understand why people would be mad at Pearl for doing that, but it's kind of fun. It's like a fun scenario for Diesel to be in, and it does have fun humor pieces in it with Snowball in jail.
yeah.
So I do
Also,
think,
the and breaking him out was also a fun little sequence.
yeah, I do think it was a worthy scenario to sacrifice what you may call illogical, to sacrifice a bit of logic in order to get that fun scenario. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had that. So, you know, I think it was worth it. But I can see how,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, and
But I think where I was coming from, it's less of like it's logical, but more so that like him being in jail was more reasonable than like ah, I don't think I'm making sense here.
oh well, definitely not when you don't finish a sentence. Well, I mean, I'm just playing
It's
good
more
stuff.
so. It's more so that some people think. Some people think that he should have like stayed in jail or whatever. Wait, no, not or that the
End
reason why.
credits. Diesel's in jail. It's a dog's life. End episode. Oh, you mean that they should have let him stay until they could prove his innocence?
No, I hold on. Wait, I'm probably like remember like not remembering some of it correctly. It's more so that him going to jail was like valid and reasonable, even if he didn't, even if he wasn't the culprit, he still broke the park ban. So
Yeah. And of
I mean,
course,
he
like,
did, yeah, but
and I mean,
he was sleepwalking, and also
well, I
he's
mean,
a
Pearl
child,
doesn't
so that
believe that.
yeah,
And, it's, and, you know,
it's weird.
yeah, I guess that is. You know, one thing I noticed is that the police on Pearl is just on her phone in the background while Pearl barges in the house. So like,
Yeah,
I like how it's like, does she know what's going on?
who
Like,
knows?
like she just she just doesn't care. Like the best police officer ever. She just doesn't care.
Probably not. Well,
Yeah.
granted, the show's more focused on the animals, but
Yeah.
that is kind of
Yeah.
funny to think about.
Yeah, that makes, that makes yeah, people may criticize Pearl, but like, let's be real here. At least she's not on the phone. At least she actually does stuff. She's a
Yeah,
better policeman than the actual policeman. uh
maybe not many crimes happen around there, but
oh,
I mean, I feel that would probably. Well, I don't know about like how this world would handle like this show would handle something like that. Probably not.
yeah. What else did I have? Sort of but yeah, and I will say that it does sort of have a cool sort of twist at the end, how it does the sort of elimination of all wrong answers, and what you get is the truth.
Yeah, even with like the truth still being in part one. I think if you like look closely at like one part of it.
Yeah, they're really. I will say it's a funner watch on your first time around than when you don't, than when you already know the answer, in which case you sort of, that can go for like all mysteries, but that's sort of part of what I like about this, that it was a mystery. It was a fun change of pace, and with
Yeah,
with the jailbreaking, and how many different pups we saw, and how many different characters interrogated, it felt like an episode that was, you know, grand, that it warranted a two-parter, unlike
yeah.
another two-parter.
We're we're not there yet.
Okay.
Even though I want to smack it down into the ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really mainly have an issue with half of it. And
That's
part of it
fair.
having being a two-parter. Oh well. Okay, so yeah, I do like that episode, and I guess with the sort of twist thing, it's only fitting to talk about Flea Mageddon, episode 19, or 9B.
The best. Well, not like the best, but certainly. Well, I think it'd be the best in terms of like maybe if you use it as a seasonal episode for like Halloween or whatever, because it has that certain feel.
No, we have Fear Window. We don't need that.
I don't know about that one, Chief.
uh, but yeah, Yeah, I really do. It really did peak I really do think this episode had a really, even more so than the nose job. I think it really balanced a sort of dramatic sense with humor like better than the nose job. Like I don't know what. I mean, they both had it, but oh wait, we forgot to talk
That-
about the end of the nose job with the cat and
yeah, that was.
how it leads into the bigger narrative. But really that's actually I think that speaks for just how much it builds up to the narrative that we can kind of just forget about it.
Yeah, and that's nice
I
with
mean,
like shows.
it does sort of work in the episode's benefit that because without it, I bet the writers would be like, "Oh wait, how do we punish this character really for doing it?" But now that it's actually, oh, it gets away to come in another episode. It's sort of like the writers can sort of wipe their sweat, like, "Ooh, we don't have to write we don't have to write a consequence for this."
No,
Yeah. Okay, so back to Flea Mageddon. I thought it balanced the drama and stuff really well.
yeah, and it also exaggerated the whole situation, which was welcome.
Yeah, it really did blow it out of like proportions, and but it was that was sort of it's almost it's not it's not like a mix, but it's like a good blend of like comedy and drama with its sort of dark overtones. And it really is a zombie episode without being a zombie episode.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I I know it's like probably a simple design, but I did like how everyone looked when covered in fleas.
yeah, those red eyes are totally Resident Evil Damnation. I'm not even gonna lie. It's totally
Yeah,
RE Damnation. But I would say that yeah, okay, hold on. Yeah, I'd say it had a good balance and honestly, it's one of the things where the twist at the end actually makes sense of the events that
yeah,
happened prior because the twist is that the space rock is giving them quote unquote space rock is giving them fleas and it
and
does
the
sort
one
of
that gave him to was, and the one that gave him to him
Clarissa,
was
yeah.
Clarissa.
Yeah, and it does. I was looking for that because at first my issue was that I thought there might not have been enough foreshadowing, but for an 11-minute episode, the sort of way Clarissa flaunts that they have a flea problem in the middle, I'm like, yeah, that's a good enough foreshadowing. I mean, really, the rock itself, you could have had more foreshadowing that it was from Clarissa, but at the same time, I can sort of forgive it that Clarissa's comment just alone hints that she was involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, so even if it could have been foreshadowed better, it still was good. And going through the past events, it like makes sense about like that it was the space rock. Like everything sort of adds up.
yeah.
Unlike burying someone's shoes because they're getting a hair transplant.
No, we're not there yet.
I don't mean to call out every other episode. It's just it's foreshadowing.
Also, it's easier to compare, I guess,
Yeah, really.
when both episodes are striving to be sort of the same feel, but
Yeah, they sort of do have this sort of mystery sort of element and a twist, except only one of them makes sense of the events.
yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, at first I was going to consider you could say the mattress is sort of a red herring, but I sort of like how it's used for Dylan to bounce off of it at the end. I'm sort of like, you could have just called it a red herring, but the fact that it's used in the climax raises its utility and makes
Yeah,
me think, yeah, and I'm like, okay, it would have been a red herring, but they actually put it to use. And
kind
I'd
of like reincorporation with something from an earlier point of time being used for something more important later,
Oh,
something like
are you
that.
calling it Chekhov's gun? No, it's not completely like that. I wouldn't call it like that because
All
they
right,
could
that's fair.
because they could have
I was just thinking maybe, but
yeah, I can sort of see that, but it's sort of used really quickly that I'm sort of like it's not solely brought up just for this. They could have invented another way for Dylan to get over to Clarissa.
yeah,
Which, speaking of, this is probably her most evil episode, you could say.
yeah.
It really does.
That's why I love her though, because of how like
Yeah, she's
kind
a
of
really
like
good antagonist.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, that, and honestly, it's just that I think that the show's pretty good at giving her comeuppance,
oh
which is,
yeah, she always has like consequences for the things she's done,
yeah,
like in the
and it's
right
always,
royal. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, continue.
no, yeah, and it's always rewarding that it's sort of, it's, I think that's part of what makes a villain I think that's what makes her a good villain, that she sort of gets what's coming anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. So next up is Doggy
Wait,
oh,
before
ooh, okay, yeah.
like I did want to mention this was like the episode that really got me hooked into the show, which is kind of funny because it was the one that like it was the last one before like the hiatus,
Oh,
and yet
so you
after
watched this out of order? Was this like huh?
kind of I think this was like the third. Wait, no, not third. Maybe the fifth episode I've watched, and it's like, all right, I think I should go back and watch the episodes I missed.
Oh, okay. Cuz I watched this yeah, this was the 19th episode I watched, and I was like, honestly, I kind of was skeptical until I mean, just funny story. I remember starting it and then seeing the Lancel art, and I was like, "Huh, why is that ship a thing?" And then I saw Poetry Scam, and I was like, "Oh!"
Oh yeah,
Honestly, Poetry Scam for me is when I was like, this show's pretty good.
yeah.
But
That's also one of the others I watched, if only because I heard talks of like the ending with Dylan and Hanzo, and I thought,
yeah,
oh yeah, that's obviously foreshadowing. Maybe, well, that might that might lead into something that I don't want to bring up
oh,
with like I don't wait no I feel like I'm going off topic, but I guess with like there's always that worry with possible gay characters about the show leading into queer baiting, but I don't think this is the right show for something like that.
yeah. I wouldn't say so, but I will say
Yeah,
fans of I will say
I wouldn't either.
fans of Delancel really, they really grasp onto those last 30 seconds. I've never as like evidence, I've never seen anyone like grasp onto like 30 seconds as much as that scene.
That's the power of shipping.
Yeah. Okay, so Doggy Da Vinci, and I actually just finished watching it. And I would say this is probably the best episode in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it is like the
Objectively,
best.
maybe not my favorite, but objectively, I would say it was the best. So,
Yeah.
what would you say you liked about it first?
Kind of everything. I liked how it portrayed uh I'm bad at names, and like for some reason,
Oh, you mean the
Da
allusions
Vinci's.
to other art pieces?
I like that, and I also liked how it played on Da Vinci's insecurities and how pressured she's feeling with all the with like how much Dylan, Dolly, and Snowball are kind of pushing her to make the same thing.
Yeah, it was sort of a good way to sort of make the main character sort of the villain, but at the same time sort of learn something too.
Yeah,
I would say, what you mentioned the illusions of art. Well, no, actually, I did, but you agreed. I really sort of do like that because at the beginning, when she starts, it starts like a normal episode, but then when she starts making the shirts, it goes into this abstract style of portraying, you know, this abstract style of portraying her painting the shirts, and it sticks with these and other painting illusions. And I thought that that was a really
yeah,
creative way to unite the sort of character narrative perspective with that of the viewer by changing the visual aesthetics completely to sort of match that of how Da Vinci would probably to match that of Da Vinci. I thought that that was a really sort of smart idea to and really creative idea to sort of unite the viewer's perspective with that of the character who really is shaping the narrative, which even in like Wow of Meow, Deepak doesn't really shape the narrative. He's the source of like he's sort of the main point of what happens with the conflict. But otherwise it's Dylan's perspective that the story is told from. But
yeah,
this one you really see it through Da Vinci's eyes in not an explicit way. It's like creatively uses the art pieces. It uses art illusions to creatively structure her perspective.
yeah. Especially near the end, where how she's starting to see the world is all kind of warped a bit.
Yeah, it gets. That's one thing that I wrote down. It does a really phenomenal at escalation in both the physical sense and like literary sense. Like
Yeah,
the visuals really match the sort of escalation of conflict. And I really did enjoy the way things evolved. What would you say about it?
I'd say I enjoy it too, but like with my first viewing, I wasn't sure if I was happy with like one person's inclusion near the end, but
Huh.
after, well, like when London We Have a Problem aired, it made more sense
It did sort of lead into it more than uh
than a normal episode
even the
would.
nose job. I'd say it does sort of lead into. It does have larger implications for like a larger effect than the nose job did, which was pretty much like a solid intro. Like, okay, we're introducing this into the plot.
Yeah, and then like we don't see it for another few episodes.
Yeah, and even then, with the nose job, it wasn't even necessary for the twist, but they kind of just used it as like, oh, let's build this up.
I
And
don't think I mind it too much because I
I don't
figure, oh,
either.
the DeVilles are at it again.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. In fact, I kind of don't know why, but I like it here where it's kind of extraneous, the sort of build up to this overarching plot. I do like how it's sort of extraneous because it's a slice of life show and you can enjoy it
Yeah,
without even the overarching plot. I do sort of like it because I do like how it is extraneous, but ironically, I hate those and watch out for the next film end credit scene in the MonsterVerse Godzilla movies.
oh,
But
I haven't watched those, so I
yeah,
can't really comment.
yeah.
But I
I
think,
don't know the distinction, but I don't know why I feel differently. Maybe it's because this one is less story based, that it's more slice of life.
yeah, well, I tend to like call shows like these episodic, but and like shows with more of a continuous plot are serialized
Yeah.
series.
And I
That
like
makes
that
sense.
barely any of the episodes are fully narrative, like overarching plot driven. They're kind of just their own thing, but with something sprinkled in at the end to sort of build narrative. I do like it.
Yeah,
One thing,
though it's not like that with every episode,
yeah,
thankfully, because otherwise I would have
yeah,
tapped out sooner.
same.
They, that's not a knock on the show, because if you like shows like that, I think that's fine, but they aren't my thing, so
I
I'm
like,
lazy with trying to get into series. So.
yeah, same. Uh, and one thing I wanted to say about the evolution is just how um unlike Girls Day Out, where they sort of invent this weird orange spray device to make them look like hyenas, and it feels a bit contrived. Here it feels really natural because it really does rely on the character of Da Vinci's perspective, because at first she's exploited and then she realized that she's just a mystery artist, and so she wants attention, so she gets it, but then she realizes it's too much attention. Like, all these are driven
Yeah,
by really logical responses to the character and from the character. I think it felt like the most organic plot of the series, that both took it in an interesting direction and felt like really organic and natural.
yeah.
And
Also, some would say it's probably the best
yeah.
depiction of anxiety, and I think that's true, but I don't want to I don't know if
Oh,
well
I wish
someone
my
who does.
anxiety was that cool. And yeah, I would say it really did do well with the more darker visuals at portraying
Yeah,
that. And I do like the joke about how they call her Doggy Da Vinci, and they're like, well, how do they know her name? Like, I do like
yeah,
that joke because it does sort
yeah,
of mock the on the nose naming schema of the characters. I thought it was sort of a clever sort of way to sort of wink at the viewer in a way.
yeah,
Oh, and the ending, the conflict is like directly linked to the payoff. Like, the conflict is the wall breaking, but when they pay it off, it's sort of like Da Vinci sort of like earned a sort of reward, and like, but it's
yeah,
also the characters learning of like, oh, here, you can do whatever with this wall. It's sort of a good way to reward the character, and it was a really good payoff with how the conflict started. It was really creative. I'd say it felt really organic and natural. And then
yeah. I'd agree with that.
there's the overarching plot of a
Hunter.
hunter, which I'd say I do like that it's extraneous, but you can still cut it out of the episode. It's really just used to set up the next one, but I still do like that it is extraneous.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it does help when you are watching it over and over, but it's not enough like those other shows to stress you out like, oh, I gotta keep up with this plot, you know?
Oh yeah.
I like the lax
It just
pace. Yeah, I like the lax pace of the show.
yeah, I can agree. That's also that's also true with like some other shows I like to watch. But
Yeah. So, you want to wrap it up?
if you want,
Well, I don't. It's not like we have a like a sixth favorite episode. We covered them all.
no.
Okay. Oh, wait, but we do have the poll.
Oh right, there is that.
Okay.
Relink that.
So you want me? Oh, you want me to just say the winner here?
Sure.
Okay. So the winner is A Summer to Remember.
Oh no.
I'm just joking.
I kind of wouldn't be too surprised, but
Well, A Summer to Remember did get second place.
oh
And I was like, oh, people really like Summer X Dylan, I guess. Or maybe it's just that song, because that song is yeah, I can understand with that song. No,
I
somewhat.
want yeah, that song's a bop, but
Yeah.
also I talk more about why I think people like it, and then like maybe mention why I feel it doesn't work. But
Okay, but yeah, the real winner is Doggy Da Vinci, which I'm kind of not surprised because it is a really good episode. So yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was it with episode 1. So I guess see ya, and see you, Ali.
See ya. This was interesting, and I'm
Uh
sure with the word
yeah.
with like the next one, there will probably be better talking points from me.
Oh, because you're a negative person, huh? No, no, but
Well, maybe
honestly, same. But okay. All right. So see ya. Bye.
later.